Osama, Dylan, thank you for joining, and thank you for taking time to discuss this tricky subject, the CDP category, and where it is headed. Personally, from the CDP Reboot articles that I've written, basically it came down to three options: a rebranding, a redefinition, or an absorption into something greater. But before we begin, for the people who don't know the both of you, could you maybe do a quick introduction? Dylan, let's start with you.
Great. Well, happy to be here, and thank you for having me. My name is Dylan Fly. I lead sales and partnerships at Simon Data. We've been in business for a little over 10 years, and I've been at the business for almost 8 years, so almost as long as we've been in market. And that timeline actually interestingly coincides with the acronym CDP appearing in market. So it can also speak to some of the decisions we made early on to, around deciding to participate in the category, and decisions we've also made more recently just in terms of where the category is headed.
Excellent. Osama.
Yeah. Thank you for the invitation, Matthew. Osama. I'm the founder and CEO of Dinmo. We're younger than Simon Data. We've been there for 3 years now, and we're building also a customer data platform. Our main focus is to help marketing team activate the data directly from their cloud data warehouses. So the data that they're marketing to their data teams centralize it within cloud data warehouses like Snowflake. And the idea is for us, and our main focus is to reduce the friction between technical and non-technical teams and give teams speed and autonomy, use whatever they want, and share it with the platforms that they already have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think definitely that the teams is the key here. Coming back to you, Dylan, a quick question, because like you said, Simon Data has been around for 10 years. It's close to the point where the CDP acronym probably was brought to life. I mean, what's your personal take on how the CDP category has evolved over the last few years? And as you mentioned, you've seen it shift. When did it really start to change for you? When did you, because you, if I remember, well, I do remember correctly, you wrote the article about the CDP graveyard. You saw this coming quite some time ago already.
Yeah, so I think we have to decompose the CDP category as well, because there are different types of CDPs, all of which have experienced different ebbs and flows within the overall market dynamics in that period. You have data collection CDPs, which originally focused on helping customers better collect and organize and integrate data throughout their business. You have, CDPs that are more focused on identity or master data management type workflows, data organization once the data is landed in whatever system it's landed in. And many of those CDPs early on in the category functioned as sources of truth for data as well. So could have been a quasi data warehouse for a business that didn't have a data warehouse. And now we're hearing more businesses position themselves as composable CDPs or reverse ETL solutions, which I think, have obviously grown significantly over the past few years as businesses have undertaken over the past decade just a significant amount of effort centralizing, organizing their data within cloud data warehouses. Yeah. So my overall thoughts are just that the types of CDPs, that are growing or declining have shifted as the category itself has shifted. Simon, very early on, was built on Snowflake. So we were always sort of this hybrid alternative for businesses where if you didn't have a data warehouse, we could land your data in a Snowflake account that we manage and, operationalize for you. And if your data is all in Snowflake, then we can deploy inside of your Snowflake and help you, leverage and activate data that exists within Snowflake. But I think in the context of shifts in the category, it's important to keep in mind that there are different vendors that all kind of got amalgamated as CDPs and are spoken about as one category, but it's really sort of different. There are different, players, different subcategories within the category.
Yeah, it reminds me of Baskin Robbins with, I think it was like 31 flavors, the store. It's all ice cream, but there's so many different flavors to choose from. Which one are you going to go for? Talking about composable solutions, Usama, I mean, what do you think that traditional CDPs often misunderstand or about warehouse native models? There's this huge uprise in warehouse native operations, as Dylan pointed out. He's seen this over the years. It's probably one of the main reasons why you got into this area as well. I mean, did packages fail, or did they not understand about the alternative methods?
Honestly, I don't think the traditional CDPs failed. They were created to address a problem like 15 years ago, which was stitching identities, building this data warehouse, because the main problem was that people didn't have this consolidated customer view. So they looked for something like master data management, so they can give them the ability to have a clear view of who are my customers, what did they do in the past, etc. So it was more about data management features like identity resolution, the ability to collect data from different sources, etc. evolving, going with the rise of, for me, the main change was the rise of data teams. We didn't have like those modern data teams that we have right now. And with cloud data warehouses like Snowflake, like Databricks, they democratizes something that was not accessible to most companies, which is the ability to collect the data to manage it in one central place. So with the
Yeah.
rise of modern cloud data warehouses, CDPs were challenged. So if I have like done a big part of the CDP project, do I need like to buy a CDP that offers me and make me pay for all the features that are already addressed internally? And I was a chief data officer in the past. I was building data platforms and advising some companies on building this. And I was seeing that many companies are starting to have a part of the CDP, but they lack the last part, which we call internal data activation. And by the way, at the beginning, we were calling Dinmo as data activation platform, not a CDP, because obviously the CDP is the mix of the cloud data warehouse and everything that data teams do within the data warehouse and the data activation part, because we complete what they already have built internally. So we basically focus on the last part, the visible part, which is accessing this data, building audiences, building events, etc., and then being able to share them dynamically with the different tools that they have in their stack. And I believe that the traditional CDPs should, it's not the composability, it's more the modular approach. So do not make people pay for features that they don't need. And I think the biggest mistake was there, that people have invested massively in data teams, so it costs for the organization, and they don't want to pay for a tool that would cost hundreds of thousands or even millions for the most traditional ones. I'm talking about AWS and Salesforce. If they have already invested in building a part of the CDP project. And I think we've spoken about composable CDP because I think the term was invented to speak about the fact that the data is not stored within the CDP. But I think the main innovation is the fact of making the CDP modular. And I joined Dylan on the fact that we need to decompose the CDP. We need to separate it in different parts. And and then compose, get what you need to have the full picture to address the use cases that you have.
I think it's not just CDPs, right? It's, sorry if I could just react to it real quickly. I think it's like any packaged software that wants to function as a source of truth for data is going to have an orthogonal architectural approach. And, maybe you can speak to this as a former CDO, but, to a business that wants to have all of their data well organized and accessible within a cloud data warehouse. Because once you have your data well organized and accessible within a cloud data warehouse, you want applications that come to your data that can leverage that enterprise data and the full context that it provides for their specific operations. So I think the CDP space is more vulnerable to that trend because it was always this solution that sat underneath marketing tech as a way to organize data. And in some cases, as we talked about, functioned as a source of truth of data for those marketing technology applications. And so therefore it was more threatened by cloud data warehouse centralization. But it's really like any SaaS application now that wants to function as a source of truth for data within the enterprise is going to be challenged by this approach where businesses are viewing the cloud data warehouse as their source of truth. And from our perspective, rightly bringing applications directly to that source of truth, as opposed to bringing the data to the applications.
And does this have to do with... Does this also have to do with maturity over the years? I mean, like you said, Simon Data has been in this business for about 10 years. I think a label was given to it just to be able to make it more tangible for maybe marketers to sell this or salespeople to sell it. But if we look at the necessities within companies, a lot of them now are shifting or are actively working with their own data warehouse environment. Is it also the maturity or an effect of maturity within a company to be more challenging, as Usama said, to the fact that a more, not a bespoke solution, but a more composable solution, let's just call it what it is going to be more effective?
Definitely. I think not everyone is there on the maturity curve where, their data is all centralized within a cloud data warehouse and they want to bring all of their applications to the data warehouse. Some organizations have not yet adopted cloud data warehouses at all. Other organizations have data in a data warehouse, but it's being used for analytics use cases, or it's being used for their core data operations as a business. An insurance company may have their data in a data warehouse to apply machine learning models to better predict what insurance premium a customer should pay, but they're not yet using data in a data warehouse to understand what the next best action is for a given customer in that insurance journey. And you can expand that use case to many other verticals as well, right? Like retailers may be optimizing their supply chain, but they may not yet be thinking about, how do I connect in store to online purchases to understand, how best to market to this customer. So that's where I think, a hybrid approach CDP or a traditional CDP can still play a role. I still think, 5+ years from now, depending on the laggardness of the organization, those traditional types of SaaS will eventually become obsolete, whether they're CDPs or anything else, right? As just the data supply chain shifts such that more data, enterprise data lands in the cloud data warehouse and we bring the applications to the data. I think across any software vertical like that, it is going to happen in the next 5 years. I also think, and we'll certainly talk about it in this conversation, AI is going to be a huge driving force for businesses to accelerate adoption of cloud data warehousing because they can deploy models more easily in those environments. The more enterprise data they can provide context to those models, the better business outcomes they're going to be able to drive. And so that is going to accelerate the extinction of some of these more traditional software vendors that expect you to bring the data to the software as opposed to the other way around. But, definitely there are organizations today that are not yet ready to adopt a CDP as an application that sits on top of their data warehouse.
Definitely. And Usama, a quick question for you, because Dylan mentioned it. Maturity does play a role in it, and it also depends on the customers or the companies that's buying this stuff, their capabilities of having in-house resources available to be able to manage a more complex composable solution. Simon, data, as Dylan pointed out, they can offer that services, but what's your point of and your opinion about that from Dinmo's perspective, being a composable only solution? What would you say if you did notice that companies did not have the right maturity level to be working with a composable solution?
I think if I have the opinion that the industry will shift to internalizing the data management eventually, it will take time. Most companies are not there yet, to be honest. Like we see in the market, and most enterprises don't have reliable universal data layer for now. So this is the first thing that I'm seeing. And it pushed us also to offer hybrid approaches. This is one of the last things that we offer to our customers. So if you're not ready yet, it's not core features for us. So we're relying on some partners to get the data from different sources with the help of Fivetran. And we're offering also hosting the data on platforms like Snowflake and BigQuery. They are like our two partners on this on this type. But we are completely transparent, like saying this is like we believe this is like temporary, and you will eventually get back your data warehouse. So the moment that you feel that you're ready and you started building those use cases, you can get it outside of Dinmo, attach it to your own organization. But we will help you implement the use cases that you need right now, because you feel that if you don't implement them, then you will lose money. So to be honest, like it's a matter of not pushing. Again, it's the all-in-one approach, and the fact of making people copy their data in different SaaS systems that will be obsolete completely in some years that we fight against. It's not like the fact of offering the different possibilities. And I think, well, like Simon, we don't do event collection, and some CDPs do offer this feature. Some companies don't have a tag management system, so they can rely on this as their own feature. But as again, it depends on offering customers the pieces that they miss to build this complete customer view, and then make use of it so they can get ROI. We don't have, like, in our roadmap, we don't want to be the platform that focus on data management, to be honest. And we are more focused on, once the data is there, how we can create the most of the value out of it with AI, with predictions, with personalization at scale. And we want to focus on this. So the everything that happens after the data warehouse, this is our main focus. But it doesn't mean that other solutions don't have any place. As Dylan said it, there are a lot of companies that they want to implement use cases right now, but they don't have a data warehouse. They don't have a tech management system. They don't have identity resolution. And I can definitely advise them to start their data-driven journey with Simon Data or any other platform.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, it's just a matter of maturities until they reach the level that they will see clearly that they need to have this data, manage it internally with data teams. And this is one of the always say that the data is one of the most valuable assets for any company. So giving it to SaaS providers so they can manage it is a big mistake. And we definitely if people need like some use cases, some build business cases rapidly to convince internally, they can go and take a packaged solution that offers everything to run the first use cases. But they need to keep in mind that eventually, and especially with the rise of AI, this data need to be managed by people internally that understand this data, that can model it, build some AI agents on top of it, and not rely on one solution that fits, that works for many, many companies to understand their specific needs.
So just to come back to a quote from Substack here, I asked the question around the rebranding, refining, and absorption. Somebody said, even if CDPs didn't know everything, they raised expectations. Every Martech tool now needs to step up, better connections, warehouse native support, and bidirectional data flows. So here's the question though. Did the CDP category actually solve the problem? Or as I've been noticing now with the discussion that we're having and the examples that you're having with clients, did it just make us more demanding? Are we saying, hey, at the beginning, it was all about connections. We started doing identity resolution or identity stitching, what do you want to call it? And then we did the activation. It became the product became so big and the scope immeasurable that right now we're saying when we talk about CDP, our expectations are, hey, when we get this implemented in our business, it's going to work. Did the messaging go wrong somewhere, you guys think?
I think, again, if you look at the subcategories, so the solutions that helped to integrate data but functioned as a source of truth, a kind of connective tissue of the data throughout the enterprise, many of those have been disrupted by composable activation tools, right? And I think Twilio's public acknowledgement of Segment's struggles is confirmation of that. The solutions that focused on identity resolution and serve as a source of truth for the customer 360 within the business, I think will be replaced eventually by more data warehouse native identity solutions. The thing with that subcategory, though, is that they target a relatively laggard ICP of customers, right? The businesses that need a lot of support, onboarding data and performing these master data management type jobs around survivorship and identity resolution and those types of things tend to be older businesses with more offline data, right? That are less likely to have all of their data well organized in a cloud data warehouse. So I think those businesses have longer runway before they're disrupted because they sell to the right side of the standard distribution curve of businesses in terms of early adoption to laggards, right? They skew more laggard. And then I think everything else that is in that comment is absolutely spot on, just in terms of CDPs functioning as this Swiss Army knife solution that has always been expected to integrate with everything throughout the business and perform every possible use case. I mean, that's kind of the unholy thing about CDPs, right? Is that because they sit in this intersection of the data and the different marketing applications, everything gets kind of pinned back to the CDP. So it's like, oh, you have this really complex customer journey that spans, all of your own channels and includes some paid optimization and involves like discount sensitivity analysis or vouchering or whatever. All of those things get put on the CDP because the CDP is supposed to have access to all of that data. And so therefore, yes, I think the CDP rose expectations around how different marketing technologies should connect to the data. And hopefully in the future of the marketing technology category, there doesn't end up being this expectation that solutions are as wide as CDPs were forced to be as a result of the different subcategories sort of bouncing off each other like bumper cars. But that's kind of where we've landed.
Yeah, nice analogy there. Osama, did you want to give your point, your vision on that?
Yeah, to be honest, like the expecting from a CDP to do everything. The name of CDP is Customer Data Platform. So obviously when you go from non-technical, when you come from a non-technical domain and you're a marketer, we would expect it to do everything, which is normal. Like, to be honest, like every day, like we speak to marketers that would expect from Customer Data Platform to do attribution, to do sensitivity analysis, to do predictions, to do everything. Because for them, it's like the Pandora box is like it's some magic. data is siloed, is everywhere, and then you put the CDP and everything by magic becomes well organized and directly accessible to make any use case. I think the CDP have participated to this perception. Providers, the early CDP providers, go to their websites and see what they tell customers on their website. They're selling real. They're selling things that will never be achieved. And it always, all the time, should be like, you look at the thing, there's no screenshot on from the platform. It's only things that tells, like dreams. If I'm a marketer, I'm like feeling a lot of pain of not accessing any data, and you tell me like by magic, you will have everything at your fingerprints, real time, personalization. So people would expect this. And I read this report from Forrester, speaking about this deception from the category. And it was really astonishing. Like only less than 5% have said of people that companies that or decision makers that bought CDPs, traditional CDPs, think that their CDPs are satisfying right now and they are the right solutions for the future. Less than 5%, which is something that you will never hear. Because people like they have their jobs on stake when they buy a solution that costs millions, and then they need to justify that it really works. They can even like invent some figures to say that it made them like save money, etc. Because it's not easy to assume and accept that they made the wrong decision. So going back to the category, I think that solution providers, and especially like big SaaS platforms, let's say it, like the Adobe and Salesforce type of platform, they need to stop saying that they are the solution for everything. They have this platform approach, so they want to like be the platform that passes the data. If you look at the Salesforce approach right now, they sell themselves for now they're going so hard on Data Cloud. And basically, if you look at Data Cloud, it's a Snowflake behind and typical data stack that people would internalize if they are really well advised, because they want to have this within their SaaS platforms, and then you're locked in, and then they will sell to you anything they want, their agent force.
Yeah.
I didn't even see any demo of agent force, to be honest, and didn't even feel what it can be done. But I think in the market, and talking about CDP Reboot, the whole category, the whole industry needs some clarity on what to expect from those kind of solutions, and some education that is about what to buy, what to build internally. And definitely, I would advise any company to not leave their data to any software providers, and keep it in their hands. The modeling, logic, everything, they need to be internalized. And if they are not yet there in terms of maturity, they need to start somewhere, like get some data sets and start doing some use cases before jumping to the shiny things.
And in terms of Agentforce, I did.
Sorry, go on.
In terms of Agentforce, I did see a demo one time, I think, when they pushed version 2.0 live, and coming back to your sales of their solutions, I think the first sales I feel like it's always free, because every time I come across a situation where they're involved, it's like, you can have Marketing Cloud for free. It's like they're handing out free candy to get you addicted to the rest. But coming back to the 2 points you made here, or at least one of them, was education. When I was looking into this topic, I found it very hard to lean either way. Like we've discussed, I think that it feels like an ongoing discussion that I'd rather try to avoid. It's hard saying it because I instigated it in this call today, the composable versus package. I think it's really holding us back, because I have seen situations where a package will be sufficient for customers to use, but I've also seen more mature customers, or at least who have the bandwidth internally, to also work with composable solutions. Like Dylan said, if they have their own data warehouse, you can choose between either option, or the same with Dinmo, as you pointed out. The question I've been asking a few people now is around education. I've had one case where I was in a call, and the vendor actually said, listen, the state that your data is in at the moment, we can't be of any value to you. So you either need to take care of that and then call us back, or find someone else to work with. And I found that very a refreshing take. And to what degree, and this is kind of a question for both of you, to what degree do you think that the vendor has a responsibility to maybe not educate upfront? I think that one's too easy, but to educate continuously after becoming a client. Does that make sense to you guys? The question I'm trying to ask? Dylan, let's start with you.
Yeah. So, I mean, Absolutely. I think the worst thing you can do is sign a customer that's not going to be a happy customer, because if a
Yeah.
customer is not going to be a happy customer, they're going to be expensive from a human resources perspective to onboard and maintain. And then they're going to churn probably before the CAC payback. So depending on what your CAC
Yeah.
payback period is, it's either an unprofitable customer or just a bad business decision, but neither is good. So yes, to the extent you can, you obviously have a role to play in educating the customer on what the best option is for them. And, as a sales leader, I will always have someone on my team, or I will tell a customer directly if I feel like we are not the right solution for them. That said, to your point, it is hard to figure out whether you're the right solution for a given customer. I feel like it should be relatively straightforward for the customer to understand. I mean, I've certainly had conversations with customers who
Yeah.
have said things like, we're only considering composable CDPs and we don't have a data warehouse. So like that makes no sense. But I think that it's also partially the result of a lot of product marketing that's, vendors are partially responsible for. So I'm not placing blame on the customer for not understanding, what is or isn't true. Osama, to your point earlier around this kind of like vaporware marketing strategy of selling dreams and showing no interface, there's definitely some responsibility on the vendor's part over the years of misinforming the market on, or selling dreams that, misinforming the market on what is real or selling dreams that don't exist. But absolutely, it's the responsibility, if you can figure out, whether the customer's data is in a state that they can, use it or not, to steer them in the right direction. The challenge is just from the outside looking in, it's oftentimes very challenging to figure out, what the state of the customer's data actually is. And so, we have a lot of experience dealing with this, right? Where a customer comes on board, they've well articulated their use cases. We well understand what they're trying to accomplish, but the data just isn't in a place where, it is, usable for those particular use cases, which then incurs a significant amount of work, both on the, on the client side and on our side potentially, which I think is another thing going back to, you mentioned earlier, just the challenges of the CDP category. And then Osama, you mentioned a stat by Forrester where was it 5% are, actually satisfied with their current traditional CDP provider. I feel like these things are related, right? Obviously, in that these are big data challenges that are somewhat complex for large enterprises to navigate. As a result, implementations of a traditional CDP can take a long time and can require a lot of work on both sides. And so to the extent possible, it is definitely the role of the vendor to communicate where they foresee challenges and be realistic around timelines and that sort of thing. It just is there's a lot of information asymmetry on either sides of a relationship with a customer that makes that very difficult.
And what about post-implementation support? I mean, let's say everything's up and running. I think it's more common than not that companies say, hey, it's implemented. Great. We can apply to this use case, the original use case for which they purchased the platform for, but they don't look beyond that. Is that also something where you try to hold their hands in that process for you, Osama?
Yeah, going back to the first question, it happens all the time. Like one over two leads that comes to us and they coming with this dream and we say like, look, to be completely honest, there's like some steps we would advise you to start this journey. We can recommend some partners to build your data warehouse. The last time I had one of my connection and he was saying that, yeah, I'm looking for CDP. I'm looking for Amplitude. I was saying like, okay, let's step back. Why are we looking for Amplitude? He said like, we're starting this company. So we're starting this company and you're looking for CDP. Okay. So I understand that the main need is product analytics. So they need product analytics. So just advise, told him like, go take Amplitude or any other like small solution that fits your needs right now. Make sure that you put everything in their warehouse because you will need it eventually, and then come back once you reach another level where you have a lot of customers and you're not able to manage them and you need to connect them to many solutions. And it happens all the time. And I think it's really the responsibility of solution provider to be completely honest, because as Dylan said, it will get back as you will never make happy customers. You will never make a customer profitable. So you will push your salespeople to sell the product to any context. And your product team will be frustrated because they will be building to so many different type of customers needing so many different things. And it's a vicious circle because it helps no one. We can look at the innovation pace of traditional CDPs it's been super low. Like for years, they didn't build any innovation in their platform, and they had like massive amount of money. They were so profitable because they were answering customers asking for this connector, asking for this specific features for this identity resolution, etc. So they're like stuck in this horizontal approach and this dream that they have sold to so many customers. It gives them money because it's completely different, because once the platform is complex and so many people get to use it, even though it's so complex, they will get stickiness. So they will get the contract for 5-10 years, and you will see so many CDPs that you were not aware of. Going back to the second question about should the CDP provider give assistance in the post implementation? I think yes, and most of we dedicate we call it a data marketing expert, so they can build the right roadmap of use cases for our customers, and we internalize this. We offer this for all of our enterprise customers, so they can build the roadmap of use cases with them, so they can go step by step, because people tend to expect the CDP to be a 0 to 1 project. It's never the case. It's never the case. So we help them get first wins, like excluding existing customers from as platforms with the data that they already have, and go through this journey step by step. And generally, we're like with them during the 3 first months. And then we reduce the amount of assistance that we will give them. But honestly, it's not about the implementation of the platform. It's about the way that they will use it and what they would expect from the platform, and also helping them in understanding their role and their marketing role and their role. And I come from a consultancy background. I have done consultancy for a long, so we made this like framework so we can give them since day one the role of our role, what we will participate, the role of the data team. We define someone from their size, the role of someone like the power user from the marketing team. So we can like have real governance, and we can educate them and change the way they approach those kind of platforms. And honestly, it's the most challenging that we have in the business right now. So making people change the way they do things, making a CRM manager go out of his Salesforce Marketing Cloud to go on a platform like Dynamo, building this audience with this new segment builder, etc. Understanding what they can do with this kind of platform, not to fear this new platform that is in between the data and his platform. So it's more of, filling a gap that I believe is existing in the industry, or especially in the consultancy, where we have a lot of consultancies focused on integrations of platforms, not educating the market, not giving them like the right approach to address CDP challenges. So we try to fill this gap, and because honestly, we're starting to have some really good partners that really believe in share the same approach to the CDP projects. But I think it's really, really important if you want to have happy customers. The software only is like giving super sophisticated car to someone that can drive it. So he needs like to learn how to drive it, how to make use of it. And we believe like on the first months, the CDP the CDP provider is also an industry expert, and they know the use cases because they meet a lot of customers. They know what the pitfalls and the best practices. So they need to share them in a good way. And now it's not always the case, because it's a complicated relation, because you need to work with those integration platforms, because those integration platforms will refer customers to you. So it's a very complicated relation. And Dylan, I think you see this every day as a sales leader. You need to work with those partners, but at the same time, be transparent with your customers. I find it really complex relation. It's like politics sometimes when it gets to enterprise. It's never that easy as we may expect.
For sure.
Yeah. And I can imagine that change is definitely difficult. You touched upon that people are very used to working in a specific method and a specific manner, and now they need to change to a different user interface where they probably have no experience in, which hopefully makes their lives a whole lot easier. You also mentioned the funding question, and that brings up kind of an interesting paradigm that I found, is that somebody recently pointed out to me. He was talking about all the recent investments or the fundings within the CDP category. And he said, if you look at the last big one was the 80 million for high touch, but it wasn't really CDP related. It was for AI decisioning. And you just mentioned this at the beginning, Dylan, that, a lot of them of the vendors are now going full on with AI. I've got a few, I try to look at this from a few angles because there's a lot of voices saying they're looking, the new shiny thing. People are trying to get into this because CMOs or CDOs, they feel pressured to stay ahead of the curve with this new kind of technology. What are you seeing from Simon's point of view around AI at the moment?
Yeah. So I think this is not a hot take by any means, but every vendor is going to pivot to telling an AI story, right? Whether it's Agentforce, which we talked about earlier, which is sort of and I think really the important distinction here as we think about how vendors will apply their AI story is to look at it through the sort of legacy traditional software lens versus the more modern data stack PLG model. The traditional software vendors, right, are the ones like Salesforce Data Cloud who are saying, bring your data to us, and using Matthew McConaughey's, Super Bowl commercials to convince you that your data is safe. And anytime you have a celebrity endorsing your software on television, that the software is not good. But the point of all of that is that Salesforce can get access to more of your data. They can then tell you that they have this fleet of agentic AI capabilities, that can help you do X, Y, and Z for any use case within the entire business. And they actually can, right? I mean, Salesforce can do anything you are able to get it to do using, time, money, or resources. Going back to the conversation we were just having around the challenges of enabling customers once they actually come on board to get value from the thing. And then I think, the more modern solutions are going to apply AI more successfully to the scope within which they operate within the business. But really, it's going to be the ones that are connected to the cloud data warehouse that can take the full corpus of enterprise data to provide context to what they're doing that are going to be most successful. That's certainly our approach at Simon is provision us access to whatever data you want us to have access to. And that will help us infer and then inform the interactions that you want to have with your customers. So common use cases that don't involve just the data that involve customers are, I want to message the right product to this customer, but unless the taxonomy that I have in my product catalog correctly identifies every attribute about this product, I might actually need to go mine reviews data to understand how people are talking about this product in order to understand its use so that I can then better inform something like a product recommendation algorithm. So that's just one example, right? But Simon's view and my view are that the solutions that are going to be most effective are going to be the ones that can take into account the enterprise context of all of the data that you want to be able to provision the solution with access to then be able to inform those decisions that the solution makes. And actually not the solutions that you have to bring the data to, because then those solutions are only making decisions based off of the data that you bring to it, which in the context of Salesforce may be powerful for CRM applications, or in Marketing Cloud may be useful for optimizing a customer journey or personalizing an email, but it's not necessarily going to help you make those decisions using the full enterprise context. And I actually think I've written about this, but I think, High Touch is going wide with their positioning around AI decisioning and wants to, take sort of a broader position that High Touch can optimize the full customer journey and experience. We'll see how that plays out. Obviously they have a significant amount of money now to invest in R&D and sales and marketing and all these things. But my view is that a lot of the things they market AI decisioning for are going to ultimately be owned by the marketing tech ecosystem, by the Salesforces or Brazes of the world that are going to have the full context on what is the right branch of a journey to send this customer down based off of engagement data from the emails and push messages that we're sending. Whereas CDPs, the ones that leverage AI and leverage that enterprise context, are going to be better focused on things like data discovery, audience creation, customer insights, and those types of things that don't just involve what emails did this customer open or what's the right message to send to this customer in which channel.
That brings up a burning question that's been sitting on my mind for the last 30 seconds. Is AI going to be another differentiator between all these vendors, or are we going to kind of circle around and meet each other further down the road again? Because
I think we'll initially differentiate around AI stories and then ultimately converge where everyone's AI capabilities start to overlap and sound the same. But really, it's going to be the ones that can deliver the most business value using the AI capabilities that are going to win, is my view.
Your opinion on this, Simon?
It's a difficult question. I share the view of Dylan of any any CDP would have a certain AI narrative eventually, and it's mandatory since we're connected to the customer data and you have like the full context. You're supposed to have the full context. Would expect that you create more value using AI, which is completely normal. But which AI, which part of AI? Is it AI decisioning? Is this like audience discovering? Is this measurement?
Exactly.
We don't know yet. At Denmo, we're more focused on giving things. Let's say that we have seen a lot in different different industries, like product recommendations, like predicting really well the lifetime value and the churn, any future customer behavior. Predicting the efficient channels for customers, because everything is not customer engagement. People can also go to different channels like social media, etc. So trying to enrich the customer view by unveiling hidden patterns within the data that we connect to. This is like our main focus. And it's funny because we have this like for a long time, and from the beginning, from the moment that we built Dinmo, we're focusing on building this with the reverse ETL features. People weren't interested. And with AI, we were branded. We just changed this like predictive AI, and people were, it's like the most shiny thing that people want now. So it's really it's funny seeing that this switched, and it's like more the context, the global context that influenced this. Going back to the AI decisioning, it's from a sales perspective, I think it's sales. Telling people you can experiment automatically. You have this agent that will learn what works, will not work. If your customer behavior changes, it will adapt, and it will always give you the best outcome possible. To be honest, it can be the case, but it needs like a lot of context and to be set up, because we try to discover this field. It's really hard to build it outside of marketing automation tools. So if you are Braze and you have already the data, the engagement data, people that open, people that buy, people that engage with your push, with your SMS, with anything that we're sending, real-time data flowing in, and you can adapt, learn. And that's why they bought Offerfit lately, because I think it's a part that integrates perfectly marketing automation tool. Let's call it like a CUP, customer engagement platform, call it whatever you want. And the challenge is like making it outside of the customer engagement platform, when the most of the challenges that you use to speak to your customers are within those CUPs, would be a big challenge, because you will need to extract the email data, etc., make personalization. It will be super hard. And we'll see what Martech can make out of they're going super hard. And I think you can see that they're trying to push the market towards this direction, because obviously there will be a bigger market for those marketing agents, but will they be outside of those customer engagement platform or not? I don't believe it will be the case. In our case, we're building more reinforcement learning agents, calling them like AI agents, that would give you some predictions about when it's the best time to speak to a customer, what's the best channel, by analyzing all the enterprise context, data context, as Dylan mentioned earlier. Because we believe that we are the only platform in the stack that have access to 100% of the customer data and the final goals when you speak about the revenues or we don't have the engagement data, but you can get it back. We can analyze all those data again, and we have those features, and then we send them. Our customers can send them whatever they want. So we don't want to push any campaign. We believe that the customer activation part will always be in those customer engagement platforms. And this is our take, and we believe that AI will definitely change the way that we see our business, the focus that we have on the product. We have the advantage that we are still young, 2 years in the market is not that much. And we have most of our money, we can reallocate it in different areas. And AI, the advantage that we have, that we invested in AI super early. We have been there once, just after the boom of AI and ChatGPT. So we tried several things and we cut so many things. Like the one thing that we have cut is a data AI analyst, for example, that would answer any question, that will build you the analysis, etc. Yeah. Honestly, it can be used by a data analyst to accelerate them, but never with a marketer for obvious. You need to check the data, you need to check the outputs, and if you're a marketer and you trust anything that it would give you, it's really complicated. But I think we are still in the hype phase, like for the of the
Oh,
curve.
absolutely.
Yeah, but AI decisioning
It's interesting.
is really compelling. Going back
It's
just to
interesting
finish
to
on
see
AI
the
decisioning.
diversity in solutions. No, we're definitely going to finish, but it's interesting to see how it's opening up a box of creativity among vendors. And what I didn't expect is so many vendors just going so many different routes, from the topic we just discussed, but also to integrating it into analysis solutions, being able to build out user journeys, or even build out entire campaign flows. It's amazing to see what we can do. Gentlemen, I want to thank you both for your time today. We are at the top of the hour, so I know agendas are looming. Dylan, thank you very much for your time, for joining us from Florida. Osama, thank you for joining us from Paris. And it was great to hear all your opinions about this topic, and that it is a matter of still a mix between solution and maturity within companies.
Yeah, and I'm glad I have some shared convictions with Dylan, even though we have different platforms, different focus. We shared the same conviction of the CDP industry should be redefined with more transparency. Yeah, and hopefully with such podcasts, we would see more honest discussions about what is the category and what it should for the customers.
I agree 100%. It's interesting how much we see eye to eye. And it was great talking to you both.
Perfect. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Take care.